Hey guys, Prowl1701 here, and today we're going to be ranking every third Doctor story from worst to best. Yes, with the Season 9 box set coming out, I have managed to complete my Jon Pertwee watch through. I have now seen every Jon Pertwee story, so we're going to count down all 24 of them from worst to best. Starting with number 24, at the bottom of the list, the Claws of Axon. I think it's very telling of the Pertwee era that even my least favorite Pertwee story is still watchable. Like, I don't mind going back and doing a rewatch of it. I've watched it a couple times now. And while it's my least favorite, it's not like, say, Power of Kroll, where I just can't watch it. It's more like The Leisure Hive. It's not that good, but it's perfectly watchable. It does things I like. And it does a lot of things I don't like. I like the Axon costumes when they're in their kind of mutated crinoid looking form. Their more natural form, I guess. I like that outfit a lot. I love having Roger Delgado in it. I love that this is the first time we see Delgado's master really having to work on the fly. Whereas in Terror of the Autons and Mind of Evil, he had time to kind of get everything set up, you know, get his chessboard arranged, basically, so everything was set up the way he wanted it. Here, he's kind of having to work off the cuff. And he is a little more panicked and rushed in places. And I like that. It's a great performance by Delgado. I like the FBI guy, or whatever he's supposed to be, who's trying to track down the master. I like him. I like his performance a lot. I love the scene when he's having to fight the doppelganger of himself, the Axon that looks just like him. It's choreographed really well, considering, you know, back then they couldn't have, you know, the faces on both of them. It just didn't have the CGI technology to do that like they can now. So the way it uses camera angles and editing cuts is very effective there when they're fighting each other. I was really pleased with that. The restoration looks really good for episodes 2 and 3, and of course episodes 1 and 4 look good because they are the original masters. The Blu-ray release did look really good for this. And so those are aspects I enjoy of it. I like the Master and the Doctor having to sort of work together here. Now, so there's a lot of things I don't like. The interior of the Axon ship I don't like. I mean, I get why it looks like that since it's all one organism. Organism? Yes. You know, it's all, you know, all of the Axons are just one entity. I like that. And so I get why the ship looks like that, but I don't really like the design. It doesn't work for me. The Axons, when they're in their disguise form, when they look kind of human with the golden faces and hair, I don't care for that design. It just looks 60s, 70s goofy to me, which, I mean, it's from the 70s, I get it, but it doesn't look good to me. I find the story uninteresting, to be honest. It just doesn't grab me overall. I do like the guy playing Chin. He does a good job. He is kind of that one character where you just want to, you know, there's always that one guy, you know? And then the guy who plays the scientist with the glasses, I kind of like him too. But yeah, this one, it doesn't really hold my interest. The bit with the guy on the bike at the beginning is just kind of there. I mean, I get it, so they find him dead later, but it's in it too much. I'm glad it's only a 4-parter. I'll give it that. It realizes it only needs to be a 4-parter, but I just don't really get into this one. My least favorite Pertwee story to go back and rewatch. Number 23 is Planet of the Daleks. Again, I find Planet of the Daleks very uninteresting. The set design for the jungle looks good. The inside of the cave or wherever they are is fine. The Daleks themselves look good. The Dalek voices, I seem to recall, are fine. The whole thing is supposed to be about the Daleks kind of learning to be invisible. And aside from that great episode 1 cliffhanger, which is fantastic. Daleks! I love that. Other than that, it's just kind of dropped immediately after that. And instead they start focusing on their disease thing. The Spiridons don't really work for me because they're supposed to be invisible. Most of the time they're in the little cloaks. I don't really like the fur cloaks. I just find that uninspired. There's a lot happens here I just don't find interesting. Joe getting poisoned and then cured, the things talking in a whisper. It just doesn't come together very well for me. It's easily my least favorite 70s Dalek story, and one of my least favorite Dalek stories, period. Definitely one of my least favorite classic Who Dalek stories, though it's probably better than The Chase. But not all of The Chase. The first episode and last episode of The Chase are good. Yeah, I just find Planet of the Daleks very forgettable. And I'm frustrated that I had to get a rushed ending for Frontier in Space to get to Planet of the Daleks, which is highly disappointing. Number 22 on the list. Number 22 on the list is the Ambassadors of Death. Ambassadors of Death, big problem is it's just too long. I've talked about this before. It's too long. It's 7 parts. It's way too long. It could have been a 4-parter, 5-parter. Too long. I like the plot a lot. Friendly aliens. I like that. I like that it's friendly aliens. They don't mean any harm. You know, it's a group of the humans that are kind of the pricks in this one, basically. I like that. That's a cool plot point. 7 episodes, though. Ugh. And the astronauts, you know, who are running around doing all of that, they're very creepy looking. They're executed really well. It's nice to have a Liz Shaw story because we don't get enough Liz Shaw stories. We only get the 4. And she's good in it. And some of the cool scenes of John Pertwee going up in the rocket and coming back down. There's some nice tension there. So I enjoy the story. It's just, 7 parts. That's the main reason it's this low, is it's just way too long. Not an episode too long, way too long. At number 21 is Frontier in Space, and this is mostly because of the rushed ending. I like Frontier in Space. I like the Draconians, again, friendly aliens, really. And I like how it's basically a group of noble aliens, the Draconians and the humans, and they're being tricked into a war with each other by a third faction. And how they're being tricked into war by a third faction. That's clever. Now, there is a lot of the, you know, get captured, escape, get captured, escape, get captured, escape going on in this story. It really is padded out a bit. It could have been a 4-parter. But I like it. Delgado gives a fantastic final performance, but the ending is very rushed. And retroactively, you know, Delgado's final scene is just a bit underwhelming. You wish, you know, his final scene had been a better scene, which, I mean, it's not their fault. They didn't know he was going to pass away. But it does feel a bit anticlimactic for his master. And everything just feels so rushed. It's like the writer thought he was going to have an extra episode. How you coming along? Oh, I just finished part 6. I'm about to start on part 7. But it's just a 6-parter. Ooh. I mean, I just finished part 5 and I'm about to start on part 6. Good enough. It just feels so rushed because it has to move into Planet of the Daleks. That's the reason it's this low on the list. Number 20 on the list is Planet of the Spiders, Pertwee's final story. Now, I cannot stop yawning today. I can't stop yawning today. Now, the story isn't bad by any means. It just isn't as good as a lot of Pertwee's other stories. And his first final story, I feel like it should have been better. I do like the fact we get the really long chase on land, sea, and air. You know, kind of one last hurrah for Pertwee. I like the villain being the spiders. I think the spiders are executed fine for their time. I don't like that it makes Sarah Jane kind of a sucker, really, because she gets conned into letting a spider on her. I feel like Sarah Jane would have been smarter than that, so that irks me a little. And the realization of the Great One is pretty cool. Now, the whole thing about Chachi or whoever it is, the other Time Lord there, and how they can project a future incarnation of themselves, that's really weird. That's weird. I cannot stop yawning today. That is really, really weird. And I still have trouble. What's going on there? But overall, it's interesting. I like the final scene with the Doctor and when he's talking to Sarah and he's dying. I like the fact that the Doctor dies. Flat out, you can tell. He's not hurt. He's not just dying. He dies. And he's still able to regenerate. It took a little push from the other Time Lord, but his cells were able to regenerate. That's why in Modern Who, the whole, you know, if I'm killed before regeneration, I'm dead, I don't quite buy it, because we've seen the Doctor die and regenerate. Same thing with the 7th Doctor. Although both times it was problematic with him, with the 3rd Doctor needing a push from the other Time Lord, and the 7th Doctor, I think it was just more the anesthesia slowing the process down. So there were extenuating circumstances both times. But yeah, this one's just not one I go back and rewatch very often. I don't go back to it. I just feel a lot of his other stories are better. It is nice to see Mike Yates, and him get a chance to kind of redeem himself. At number 19 is The Time Monster. Now, I tend to like The Time Monster a little more than most, although I've only watched it all the way through the one time, and that's recently, so it's fresh on my mind. But aside from... I'm not tired. I don't know why I'm yawning. Aside from some naff effects like Kronos' realization and that ending part when they talk to the female version of Kronos, that looks kind of rough. Aside from some effects issues, I find the story to be interesting. I find the performances to be good, especially, again, with Delgado. Delgado is just always such a joy to watch. He's so good in that role. My favorite master. And I think the best master. And, of course, anytime you have scenes between John and Roger, they're always amazing. Katie gets a lot to do in it, and she really shows some character growth in it, which I like. And it's nice to have the Unit family back, since we don't get as much of the Unit family in Season 9. It's nice to end on a kind of a high note with them there. I like The Time Monster. It's not super great, but it is better than its reputation. Number 18 is The Monster of Paladon. I watched this one not too long ago for the first time. I liked it. I find it's a huge retread of Curse. It does kind of its own thing. The hairdo for the miners. The woman playing the Princess of Paladon, or the Queen of Paladon, she's good. I like her in it. It's nice to see Agador back. The highlight of this story for me is Sarah Jane. And it's one of the reasons when I was struggling to place Curse and Monster over which is above the other, because they're right next to each other on the list. The next one's Curse. And when I was trying to pick which one I liked better, one of the strong points for Monster to have been higher was that just Elizabeth Sladen is so great in Sarah in this story. She has a lot of spunk in this one, which I really like, which I wish her character would have had all throughout her tenure. She's just on fire. It's one of my favorite portrayals of Sarah in this. She's just written so well and portrayed so well, which Elizabeth's always good as her. I enjoyed that. I don't like the Ice Warriors kind of being the bad guys again, although it does mention in the story that they're a rogue faction, so not all the Ice Warriors. They're just kind of a splinter group that wanted to go back to the old ways. I do like the fact that that mention was in there to kind of explain it. It's nice seeing Alpha Centauri back. I like Alpha as a character. And so I enjoy it overall. It just, both the Paladon stories are good without being great for me. And next on the list, as I talked about, was The Curse of Paladon. It just slightly edges it out. I think it's a little shorter. I always mix them up. I think Paladon's the 6-parter, Curse is the 4-parter. Yeah, that's right. Can't stop doing that guy. I like that Curse is a little shorter. I love having David Troughton in the show, you know, naturally being Patrick's son. Plus, he's a good actor in his own right. So I love when he sneaks into the show for a story. I haven't watched the Blu-ray version of Curse because, again, I just watched Monster recently and they're so similar. But I've seen the DVD version of Curse, and I know the effects have been greatly improved on the Blu-ray. I like it. I especially like the fight scene in the pit is really good. I enjoy watching the Doctor try to win them over. I like the kind of subplot kind of romance between David Troughton and Katie Manning in it. That's pretty cool. And to find out that Katie actually had a thing for him, that's adorable. Again, kind of the same thing, good without being great. I don't really have a lot to say about it. This is just kind of where it falls on the list. And at number 16 on the list, this one is going to get me in trouble, is the Sea Devils. Now, why is the Sea Devils this low? I like the Sea Devils. It's a great story. But I have seen it several times, and I haven't been in a mood to rewatch it. Like, I still haven't rewatched it on the box set yet. It runs a little long to me. I'm not saying it needed to be a 4-parter, but there are just little parts in it that could have been snipped out. I think I might actually really enjoy the omnibus version of it. Again, I haven't watched that, but I might like that. I think it's 90 minutes for the omnibus of that, I think. I do need to watch that next time I get in the mood for it. It's a good story. It's one of my favorite Delgado stories, I think. Well, I mean, obviously not. There are some that rank higher on the list. Delgado's great in it. I love that we get a little bit of talk about how they used to be friends from the Doctor at the beginning. I love the location work for this story. I love the action scenes in this story. This is one of my 2 favorite uses of the sonic screwdriver. John has 2 like iconic times he really uses the sonic. In Carnival of Monsters, that one shot of him with his left hand, and then of course that shot of him using it here on the mines. Those are 2 iconic shots from Doctor Who for me. And I love the fact that the box set disc art for the second disc of the Sea Devils is that shot of him using the sonic. I love that. That's one of my favorite disc arts from one of these sets. I love the Sea Devil design a lot, and I know it's directed by Michael E. Bryant. I really like Michael E. Bryant. I always enjoy him in behind the scenes and making ofs, and I love the documentary about him in this. I just really like him as a director. There's a lot good going on. It pads out sometimes. It feels a little too long sometimes, and maybe too is because I've seen it so many times. Because I've probably seen it 3 or 4 times. I just haven't had the urge to rewatch it. Is why it's not higher on the list. Or simply just the fact, much like I said when I was ranking the Tom stories, I love the Pertwee era. 70s Doctor Who is my favorite Doctor Who. I think it's the best Doctor Who. So most of the stories are good. I mean, even the bottom of the list, Claws of Axon, I like to go back and rewatch sometimes. So all of John Pertwee's story I like to at least some degree. So even though this one's this low on the list, I still really like it. And at number 15 on the list is Doctor Who and the Silurians. Again, much like with the Paladons, it's hard for me to order these 2, so I knew they had to be right next to each other. Silurians runs a little too long, more so than Sea Devils. 7 parts is a little too long. You could have trimmed at least an episode off, I think. I'm not saying it needed to be 4 parts by far. It didn't. 5 parts maybe. 6 parts probably would have been about right. I think maybe it's just an episode too long. There are parts where it plods along a little, but it's got some good cliffhangers. It's got 2 of the Doctor Who iconic guest actors that I like with, what is it, Peter? Is that his name? The same guy who plays Niter in Genesis and is also in Invasion of the Dinosaurs. I really like him anytime he shows up in Doctor Who. He is so good. He's such a good actor. So I'm happy to see him back. And then the other guy, I think his name is Jeff or Jeffrey in real life. The guy who plays the government official who comes to check things out and then accidentally gets infected and carries the disease back with him to London before he dies. He also plays in episode 1 of The Mutants. I like him too, so I like having both of them in it. Silurians looks really rough. The color restoration on it is bad. You look at some of the walls sometime, the colors are just kind of shifting. It looks just a bit rough. It really needs some good restoration work done to it. Again, with the pandemic caused in it, that could really be a little harder to watch, I think, in the 2020s now with everything, with our pandemic. You know, you kind of watch that now and you're like, that might hit a little too close to home for some people. The reason it's a little higher than the Sea Devils is just the ending. I love the ending of the Silurians. When the Brigadier does blow it up and the Doctor sees it and he gives that whole speech about, that's murder. He blew up and he does that bit where he looks down and looks back up and just, that whole scene John does so well. And he does it, it's like he's looking slightly to the left of the camera. Like I never get the impression he's looking at the camera. I get the impression he's looking past the camera at the explosion. And that's just great. That's great camera work by the cameraman and great acting from John Pertwee. This scene is what the ending of Warriors of the Deep wanted to be, and it's what the ending of Orphan 55 wanted to be, and both of them failed miserably at it. Silurians pulls it off beautifully. I literally think, honestly, I think I watch all 7 episodes of Silurians for that ending. It's like when you're listening to that song you like, and it hits that part at the end that's just, and it's worth the whole song for that. That's how this is, and I think that's a strong thing for this story where, again, I like the story as a whole, but that ending is so good. Unlike some of the episodes of Modern Who, where they're, especially say the Capaldi era, where there's these really good scenes and these really mediocre stories, but it's not worth it to watch the mediocre story to get to the good scene when I can just go on YouTube and watch the good scene, like the speech from the Zygon speech. I can't sit through that 2-parter because it's extremely boring, but I love that speech. I'll get on YouTube and watch that speech. For Silurians, even if Silurians does drag on for a bit, I still like it, but it's worth going all the way through it for that ending. That ending is so, so good. It's just, mwah. Number 14 on the list, probably higher than a lot of people would put it, is the Mutants. Now, the Mutants, I've only seen once, and I think that's part of the driving force was it was a story that constantly had me wondering what the heck was going on, what's going to happen next. There's a lot of mystery behind where the next episode was going to go with it. And so that kept me fueled, wanting to see more, you know. Every time I watched an episode of The Mutants, I wanted to go straight to the next episode of The Mutants because I was very enjoying my watch through. Now, on rewatches, I might not have that same drive because I know what happens now. So on a rewatch, it might become a little lesser in my eyes. But fresh off my first watch through of it, I enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it. I don't know if it needed to be 6 parts, but it works. I liked the guest cast in it quite a bit, especially the guy playing the Marshal. He's so good as the Marshal. I liked him. And then, of course, the guy who plays the Chancellor, whatever, who gets assassinated in episode 1, as I mentioned with Silurians, I like him a lot, so it's nice to see him. I wish I'd seen more of him. The restoration work on it looks really good, I might add. The realization of Kai at the end after he morphs is pretty impressive for Classic Who, actually. And I like the mutant design. I actually think the mutant design looks pretty good. I mean, it's obviously a person in a suit, but it's a creative design. I like it. And then the sets look good. I mean, the location work looks really good. The sets look really good. And I love what they did for the location work in the caves to kind of make them pop, give them a Doctor Who look. It was really clever. I liked that. I love the scene when John's on location running from some of his attackers. I like that. There's a lot of good going on in the Mutants. Very underrated story, in my opinion. Number 13 on the list is the Daemons, or the Demons, whichever one you prefer to call it. Now, a lot of you guys who watch my channel know that I am not as enamored with this one as some people. However, that's not to say I don't like it. I do like the Daemons. It is a good story. I just don't think it's Pertwee's best story like a lot of people do, including Pertwee, to be fair. It has a lot of things I like. It has a couple things I don't like that I really don't like. First off, the location work is phenomenal. I love that little village. I mean, the studio stuff's good too, but I love that location shooting. Very good. It's a great unit story. I love Yates and Benton having so much to do. I'm not the hugest fan of Yates, honestly. Richard Franklin's great, but I'm just never really caught on with Yates. But I love the fact he has a lot to do. He gets to fight and stuff. I like that. He's very prominent in the episode. But I love Benton. I love Sergeant Benton. Is there anybody who doesn't like Benton? He's just like the most likable character. You know, it's weird because I know John Lamine wasn't really a speaking parts actor when he got Benton, the role of Benton. But I don't know. Maybe that some of that just going into it kind of blind and being really nice worked. Benton's a really nice character. I mean, he could take care of business, but he always comes across as just this really good guy. And I like that. And John plays him so well. So I love episodes where Benton gets a lot to do. And that's one of the things I really like about this one. I like the guest cast, like the woman playing the witch in it. I really like her a lot. The guy playing the reporter is very annoying, but my understanding is that's the point, and so the actor playing him does good. I really liked the professor in the episode, the one that wasn't having any crap from the reporter. The professor needed to be in more episodes. I liked him. And then Delgado's great. You know, having Delgado back. I love his little ceremonial robe, and, you know, and you will give your power to me. I love that. He's got some great performances here. That's got a couple cliffhangers I don't really care for. Joe giving up that they're hiding there just to save a bird makes me want to strangle Joe. To be fair, it's a very Joe thing to do. It's very in character with Joe Grant. But if I was Yates, I would have strangled her at the first opportunity. It's a bird! I remember the first time I watched it, I was literally like, you dumb! Out loud, because I was just like... And then the ending, I've talked about how the ending doesn't really work for me. It's obviously Stephen Thorne, whose voice I can never disassociate with Omega. I have the same problem with Hand of Fear when he's doing the male Eldrad. I just hear Omega, so it pulls me out of the story. The realization of his outfit doesn't work because he just looks like a dude kind of with a beer belly that needs to exercise. And the whole him being beaten with love thing, you know, it's just like Closing Time. How can you like the daemons and not like Closing Time when they have the exact same ending? We beat them with love, Alfie. The same ending. I just, So it's a mixed bag for me. It is a good story, to be fair. That's why it's almost halfway up the list. I do like the daemons. I just don't think it's the greatest Pertwee story ever. I do think it's the most overrated Pertwee story ever. It's definitely not number one on my list, like I know it is a lot of other people's, and that's fair. Number 12 on the list is Colony in Space, and most of you guys know I like this, or most of you know I like it better than I do the daemons. Colony in Space is good. I never feel that it's padded out. I know some people think it's too long. I don't. I think it fills out at 6 parts. Well, I like the fact that a lot of the major plot points don't start happening until episode 4. With the first half of the story being mostly what's going on between the miners and the colonists, and the Doctor just kind of there trying to figure out what's going on with the murders, and then kind of dispute between the two. But then, you know, the final half, you have the Master showing up. Just when you think the Master's not going to be in this season, boom, the Master showing up. And then the Doctor having to deal with him pretending to be the arbitrator. Then you also have everything going on with the city, and the Doctor in the city, and the Doctor out of the city, and the Doctor and the Master in the city, and him having to deal with that as well. The colonists revolt. There's a lot going on in this story. The location work is good. The set designs are okay. Yeah, the kind of claw thing is silly. It's very silly. The machine, I'll admit, that's just ridiculously silly. And the fact that the Doctor's the only one who realized the big lizard wouldn't have made it in there. I mean, that's kind of common sense. I figured that out the first time I was watching it before he said it. I'm like, how? I was thinking they're doing that. That should be common sense. So one of the colonists should have figured that out. So that's a little silly. It definitely has its silly moments. That, and I'm always going to be disappointed with it that they didn't cast a female as the second-in-command miner like they were originally going to. The one who's kind of taking care of things. Because I know originally they were going to cast a woman in that, and that got vetoed. And the guy who plays the character is fine. He's fine. But I don't know. I think that would have been progressive just to kind of see a sadistic female character like that. I would have liked to have seen that. So it's a good story, and it's nice to see the third Doctor get off planet. Again, this is really the first time we see him off world, so it's kind of nice to see that as well. Number 11 on the list is Invasion of the Dinosaurs. This is a good one. Yes, the effects let it down. The dinosaurs aren't great looking. Some of them are all right. Some of the dinosaur effects are actually okay, but yes, some of the dinosaur effects are pretty bad. We know that. We'll get that out of the way. But the story is good of these people who, as far as they're concerned, have good intentions. I mean, we know what they say about the road to hell. paved with good intentions, but they have good intentions. Yates, it's an interesting twist with Yates turning on them and working with the bad guys. It seems odd and kind of out of character for Yates, but it kind of plays into what he just went through in the Green Death. And this is only 2 stories after the Green Death, and the first time we see him after the Green Death. And it's an interesting consequence of just how bad the mind wiping and memory programming might have actually affected him on an unknown level, and why he had to take such a long vacation. I'm glad that he didn't get in any major trouble and that the Brigadier managed to get him off. Sadly, he had to be dismissed from service, but I'm glad he didn't get in worse trouble. I think the Brigadier kind of understood it wasn't completely his fault. But it's one of those things, while it feels a little out of character for Yates, it is neat to have a character we've spent, multiple seasons with, that a lot of people like. And Yates is okay. I'm not a huge fan of him, but he's okay. Working for the other side, even though he's still trying not to hurt the Doctor. Sarah is good in this one. I do like Sarah in this a lot. Again, she's very, she tends to take control of the situation when she has to, much like the Doctor. And I really like the guy playing the general. Is he a general, an admiral, whatever he is, the general? He does a really good job. I like him in the story. And, of course, Pertwee's always good. So yeah, I like Invasion of the Dinosaurs a lot. It is a really good story. And again, it brings back the guy who plays Niter, and I like him a lot, so I'm always happy to see him show up in Doctor Who. So, cracking the top 10, we start with Terror of the Autons. I do like Terror of the Autons quite a bit. It's a bit of a rehash of Spearhead without being as good as Spearhead. I feel like the Autons aren't utilized quite as well, and their design's not quite as good. But the Master being in it makes up for it. I absolutely love Delgado in this. And his opening scene does such a good job of establishing his character. Just the opening dialogue. I'm usually referred to as the Master. Is that so? Universally. I love that. And that whole bit when he just hypnotizes him with his eyes and just... I love that. I mean, immediately, I like this character. He's just, right there. You got me. You got me. You pulled me in. It's got some good cliffhangers, like the reveal of the police officers being Autons. That's such a good cliffhanger. That wonderful shot of the stuntman getting knocked down by the car down the mountain and coming back up. I wonder if that was Terry. I wonder if that was Terry Walsh. It wouldn't surprise me. I know that was him as the cop with the mask getting pulled off. Terry Walsh is definitely one of the unsung heroes of Doctor Who. He really is. I do like the updated effects, because I like how the approach they took with the updated effects on the box set is more cleanup than actually changing things, making the CSO look better, making the backgrounds look better, making the moving doll look better, with not too much being done to really noticeably make it look different, other than the nesting conscious when it's manifesting at the end. And I personally enjoy the updated version of that to make it more in line with the squid look of Spearhead. So yeah, cracking story, like Terror of the Autons. And at number 9 on the list is Spearhead from Space, the third Doctor's first story. And the story, I think, that really starts Robert Holmes on his legacy toward, being one of the greatest writers for Doctor Who. Not his first story, but I know most people don't care for the Crotons or the Space Pirates, though I enjoy the Crotons. I think this one, though, is the one where, you look at it and you go, yes, this is one of the good ones here. This is Bob Holmes. Oh, yes. Spearhead's good. I absolutely love the fact that it looks so gorgeous being shot on 16mm film. Now, I haven't seen the actual Blu-ray of it, but I've seen clips of the Blu-ray of it, and they look really good. I own the special edition DVD of it, which also looks really good. I like that he's in bed a little at the beginning, but he's up and running pretty quick. Like, right around by the end of the first episode, I think. He's up and moving around. I love the introduction to the new format. I like seeing the Brigadier and Benton. Well, is Benton in this one, or does he show up in the next one? I forget if Benton's in Spearhead or not. Great seeing the Brigadier. I love the conversation between him and Liz. I like being introduced to Liz Shaw. I really like the Autons better in this one. I think the scenes of them coming to life and breaking out of the windows and walking and shooting, that's pretty creepy stuff, especially if you're watching that for the first time as a child. I can imagine as a child back in the 70s when this aired, it being pretty scary. Yeah, I think Spearhead is well written and well made. And I love the fact we have a classic Who story that, you know, looks good on Blu-ray, at least one. And number 8 on the list is The Green Death. I like The Green Death. Again, good location work. Some of the CSO is a little dodgy. There is some rough CSO there, especially when they're throwing out the food out of the moving car. Come on, come get your din-din. Yeah, that looks a little rough. Also, the fully developed maggot, the one that basically turned into the fly or whatever that's supposed to be, yeah, that looks bad. It looks bad. The Doctor taking it down looks bad. But, you know, classic Who, it is what it is. The maggots themselves look good. They're realized really well. They're actually very impressive. I like Jo's growth in this story. You see the growth she's made over her whole tenure with the Third Doctor really coming to a head here, which I like. She gets a great send-off, one of the best companion departures. And Pertwee says with no words what other doctors couldn't say with 1,000. You know, you get, even though he doesn't say anything there at the end, exactly what's going through his head. It's written well, it's acted well, it's shot well. That final scene, him riding off into the sunset, which is not only the end of the story, but the end of the season, is a very sad, melancholy ending. I like the idea of the computer being the villain. I mean, that's not a new thing, but I still like it. The guy playing Stevens is really, really good. I like him in it. Of course, a good message about, you know, the dangers of pollution and needing to take care of the planet and the dangers of toxic waste. But also the dangers of computers and technology and our over-reliance on them. Which is very ahead of its time, actually. You know, predates the Terminator by over a decade, and really teaches a good lesson in that I think people today should watch The Green Death. There's a lot of good in it. It's just a really good story. Number 7 on the list is Carnival of Monsters. This is kind of a hidden gem that I think casual viewers might have missed, or modern Who fans. Because I think there's a lot of modern Who fans that either just hit the Cliff Notes, or if they're going back to watch Doctor Who, they kind of start with the Cliff Notes. The kind of big names you hear about, like Genesis and City of Death and Caves and Inferno, Spearhead, Tomb, stuff like that. I think Carnival of Monsters might get lost in the shuffle, which is a shame because it's a really good story. It's another Bob Holmes script. I love me some Bob Holmes. We have Ian Marter in what I believe is his first role in Doctor Who, and he's great. And then the story itself is just good. The Doctor being in the time scoop, which is an outlawed thing to begin with. All the different areas in it, seeing all the different villains that are trapped in that thing. The whole thing about it going through a time loop. The characters are, I should say the creatures, the Dreshigs, they're cool. I like them. I like them in concept. I think they're designed well. I think they're executed well on the screen. You know, classic Who monsters can look a bit naff sometimes, but these look pretty well. The way they're shot, the way they're designed, I think they hold up very well. I like that the alien race, the blue people, I like that they have their own unique way of speaking. Like, one has twinges. They have a unique way of speaking. I like when alien races do that, or future races like in Day of the Daleks, the soldiers from the future. I like how they talk in a slightly different manner of speaking. It just adds a lot to the story for me. I think the inside of the machine is realized really well. We have that great iconic shot of John using his screwdriver. That's really cool. And then the guest cast are all good. I really like the guest cast in this a lot. It's got action, adventure, comedy. even some politics in it. Really good story. Very, for the people who know it, us classic Who fans, we know it's good, but I do think it's one that could be overlooked by modern Who fans just because they're not aware of it. Number 6 on the list is Death to the Daleks. Now, I know this would be a lot higher than a lot of people would have it. This one is more just because I like it. I think this one is a lot of fun. I always love a rewatch of Death to the Daleks. I like the Dalek design. I like the silver and black. We don't really see that a lot, so I enjoyed that. I like the guest cast. I mean, we don't see a lot of the humans. There's only a handful of them, but they're good. I really like the one guy, the kind of older one that he's a bit shady, but he does the right thing at the end, taking out the Dalek ship. I really like his character, and I really like the actor playing him. I love the scene when John jumps in to rescue Sarah. I've talked about this before on the channel. When he sees Sarah in danger, and he just immediately, hi! Karate chops the people by him and flying tackles the ones in front of him, trying to get through. No way he's going to beat all of them. There's too many of them. That doesn't stop him, and he doesn't hesitate. He just immediately sees her. Boom, boom, jumps right on him. I love that. That's one of my favorite moments, just to see the Doctor just diving to protect her. That's just speaks to the Doctor's character. I love that scene. I love the Daleks when they're all, kill the humans, fire, fire, fire. Oh, wait, our guns aren't working. Oh, you want to form a truce? Yeah, truce. That's what we meant to say. Fire is Dalek word for truth. Yeah. Humans are like, yeah. I love their alternate method of fire with the little machine guns. I wish they did that more with the little rapid fire projectile guns. I love that. And I will never get over the fact that they target practice on a little miniature TARDIS. That somebody, somewhere, some Dalek made a little miniature TARDIS. And I wonder if they just made it on the fly. Let's target practice on an apple. Nah, screw that. I'm going to make a miniature TARDIS. Or if somebody had already made one for some reason. Of course, some of you know my theory about that there is actually a Dalek who's a huge Doctor fan. He's a fanboy just like we are. I call him Frank. Frank the Dalek. Y'all have heard me talk about Frank the Dalek. And Frank loves the Doctor. But of course, he can't let on that he loves the Doctor, because all of the other Daleks wouldn't take that too well. Problem is, it's one of those things where everybody else knows. Everybody knows Frank loves the Dalek. He thinks he's slick and nobody knows, but everybody knows. But he's like the Dalek Supreme's nephew, so they can't just kill him or anything, so they just have to. So maybe Frank's not on the ship. Maybe he's away visiting his uncle, the Supreme Dalek. They're like, well, we need to target practice. Say, Frank's got his model TARDIS over there. Yeah, break that. That's my fan theory, and that is canon in my head. That is in my head canon. Frank the Dalek, who loves the Doctor. I think that might be one of the reasons I love the story so much. It is a good story. I mean, the Daleks do kind of get beat easily, some of them. They get, wooden arrows and they're in flames. But sometimes the classic Daleks, you, push them into a wall and they blow up. This one's a lot of fun. You can probably tell by my reaction. I have a lot of fun with this one. This one, much like Colony in Space, also has the city. And then they have to go do the stuff in the city. The stuff in the city is not as interesting, I'll be honest, but it's all right. At least, doesn't this one have the city? Yeah, I think this one has the city. Oh, what a shame. There's only, 699 wonders now, or whatever it is. 799. The city part's not as interesting, but I love the story. I love the story. Getting into the top 5, we're going to start with Mind of Evil, my favorite Season 8 story. I really enjoyed this one. Again, the Master is just phenomenal. Roger Delgado is great. Once again, he's had time to plan everything out, get everything set up. He spent a year setting up this plan. I love when the Master runs into these things he can't control, which happens to him a lot. Delgado's Master. Even the machine here, gets out of his control, even though it's a living thing in it. And he can't control it. The effects of when the machine is killing people is pretty cool, like the water and the fire for Pertwee. That cliffhanger when he sees the fire is a great cliffhanger. I mean, we have two of them like that, and they're both good. It's a good cliffhanger. I love that he's still suffering some trauma from the events of Inferno. And I know Mind of Evil is written by the same guy who wrote Inferno. I love that carried over, though, that the Doctor feels, you know, regret, sadness, and maybe even guilt that he couldn't save that other planet from Inferno. I mean, we're talking billions of people because he wasn't fast enough that he couldn't do it, and an entire Earth destroyed because he couldn't stop it. And the fact that weighs on him, and that's what causes his fears in Mind of Evil. I do really love that. The colorization is a little rough looking. It's probably the roughest of the colorizations I've seen besides episode 1 of Dinos. But again, it's such a miracle that we have it in color at all. I mean, the color recovery process is a miracle that they figured out how to make that work. And then the manual recolorization of episode 1, it's amazing we have it at all. I'm grateful that it looks as good as it does. But that being said, it looks rough. You see the sky in backgrounds, like when the Brigadier shoots the guy off the roof. The sky looks rough. The skin textures look really bad. You can almost see sometimes it's a mixture of skin tone and black and white, like the skin color is halfway between skin tone and black and white. Other times you can see it in little spots like the Brigadier's hairline, where it looks like the black and white's trying to break through the thin coating of color. But story-wise, I love it. I like the set designs, too. The location work is really good, and I love the prison. The set design for the prison is really, really good. A well-made, well-directed story. Number 4 on the list is The Time Warrior, my favorite Sontaran story. I got to watch that for the first time not too long ago and thoroughly enjoyed it. It's such a good historical. It's nice to have a John Pertwee historical. It's a great introduction to not only the Sontarans, but to Sarah Jane as well. And Sarah Jane is just a firecracker in this one. I love just how on it she is, and hiding in the TARDIS, thinking the Doctor might be responsible, taking charge and planning to go capture him. I love Sarah in this one. She's just off to the races, and I love it. But one of the cliffhangers is rough when it has that faraway shot of the Doctor running around and doing the fighting. That little cutaway shot that goes on too long is a little rough. Although the actual cliffhanger when the guy's like knowing whatever being lives and raises the axe, that part's pretty good. I do like that. I like Lynx. I think he's the best Sontaran I've seen on screen. The actor who plays him is my favorite. I know he also plays in Sontaran Experiment. I think he's the best Sontaran. I really like him. And then the other guy, the human villain of the story, I like him as well. I think he's well acted. He's a little over the top, but in a good way that makes it work. I like him. And then the updated effects are nice as well. When I watched it, I watched part of it with the updated effects, and then when I went to watch the rest of it, I forgot to turn them back on, so I saw the rest of it with the original effects. But I've seen a video on YouTube comparing them. They look good. So yeah, The Time Warrior, easily my favorite Sontaran story. It's so good. Number 3 on the list is Day of the Daleks. Specifically, the special edition. The original version's fine, and I just recently watched the omnibus version and really enjoyed it. Although it did sadden me they cut out the controller's redemption arc in it. But again, 60 minutes, what can you do? It's still a great watch. But for me, the special edition is the definitive version of it. This is a story that needed some updated effects. Not as bad as I had thought. The original effects actually in some places hold up well. But, and sometimes in the special edition, they add updated effects where they didn't need any. Like showing the future with the ships flying around, because that just looks rough with the CGI they used. A couple of times when they're waving their hands on the screen, talking, it cuts to the screen and cuts back to some of that's unnecessary. They did get a little carried away with the special edition. But it does work in a lot of places. My favorite's the laser blast. Actually seeing the laser blast makes the fight scenes look so much better now. So much better. And there's several of them where that happens, where just the fight scenes are so much fun to watch. Including the new scenes filmed for the final battle where it looks like there's more Daleks there. It just makes the story better. And sometimes when they're traveling in time, that looks better too. But yeah, I enjoy the story especially. The execution of the story finally lives up to the story. I love the idea of a time paradox and people coming back to prevent a disaster and inadvertently causing the disaster. Oh, also, we have to talk about the updated voices. The special edition has the updated Dalek voices that are way better. Now, the Dalek voices in the original are bad, but I noticed watching the omnibus version, I did adjust to them, so by the end of it, it was fine. But the special edition voices are way better. They could have just done the voices, and I would have been like, special edition all the way. So definitely love having Nicholas Briggs on analog equipment doing the voices in that. I like the cast. All of the guest cast are done really well. The guy playing the controller, who someone just recently told me was the candy store owner from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I didn't know that. He's great as the controller, and I do like his redemption arc. The camera work gets a little inappropriate when it's shooting Katie sometimes. Surprised some of that got by the censors. Although I'm sure Katie would just be like, whatever. That's Katie. And John is good in it, of course. We have more good location shooting. I really like the set for the house. The house set looks really good. The future set looks a little basic, like for the controller's room, looks kind of basic. But it's okay. Even if his chair looks kind of like a commode or something. I also like the updated special edition where the Doctor is in the mind probe and it's showing pictures of the first two Doctors. I do like in the special edition, instead of just showing pictures, it actually shows footage of the first two Doctors. I just like that better. It just makes that scene hit a little harder for me. But yeah, the story itself's great. I tend to love time travel. And I mean, Doctor Who's all about time travel, so I love when that's used effectively in a story like it is here. But don't you see? You know, the Styles didn't do that. You did it yourself. I love all of that. Great story. One of my favorite Dalek stories. Number 2 on the list is The Three Doctors, my favorite multi-Doctor story. One of the reasons this works so well is just the third Doctor and the second Doctor are such a joy to watch on screen together. I just love watching Pertwee and Troughton together on screen, especially because you have one actor who's very much do it by what it says on the script, and another actor who's very much, just get the point of the script along and improvise it however. And I know that had to drive John Pertwee mad. The scene when the second Doctor first shows up in the TARDIS and they're arguing is one of my top 5 favorite scenes in all of Doctor Who. I just love how well it's executed. You almost get the impression it was done in one take. I'm not saying it was, but it comes across like you could just see that being done in one take. I love that. We are all together, cuckoo, cuckoo. What's that? It's a song by the Beatles. Oh, how's it go? Oh, do be quiet. I love how much fun it just looks like they're having with this story. I love the fact Benton gets a lot to do in it. Because I tend to love when Benton gets a lot to do. I love the fact Benton and the Brigadier both get to go inside the TARDIS. Yes. Aren't you going to say it's bigger on the inside? Everybody else does. It's kind of rather obvious, isn't it? I love that. The Brigadier, I have a slight issue with the Brigadier. He's a little too obtuse in this. Like, obviously they're not in the same place. And he's like, I think we're over in, like, Crichton. He's just a little too obtuse in this. Like, I feel like he should have picked up on it a little quicker. I always feel like the Brigadier was a lot more trusting and believing of the second Doctor than he was the third. Not that the third Doctor's the nicest to him, like the second Doctor was. I like Omega in it. I think Omega's done well. Stephen Thorne, again, Stephen Thorne is so good here, it's hard for me to accept him when he's doing any other Doctor Who roles, because I connect him so much with Omega. But he's great in it with that booming voice, and that costume is so good, and the twist of him, only his will being left, such a good twist. His henchmen, the little weird crab-looking, like, whatever they are, looking creatures, the design for those isn't the best, but it's fine. It's classic Who. It's great to see Hartnell back, even though he's not, like, there a lot. It's good to see him back and have him in one final story. And I love that he is very much the first Doctor. So you're my replacements, a dandy and a clown. I love that. Have you done anything? We've assessed the situation. Just as I thought. Nothing. He's very much the first Doctor in this, and I love that. It's so great to have him back for one final story. I love the Three Doctors. It's a lot of fun. It's always a good rewatch. And of course, number one on the list, the one that I've said many times is not only my favorite Pertwee story, but one of my favorite stories, period, Inferno. I love Inferno. I've raved about Inferno so many times. It does something you wouldn't think could be done. It's a 7-parter that is balanced perfectly, in my opinion. It never drags. The last time I watched Inferno, it's been a minute, but I was going to watch it just in bits. You know, I'll watch a couple episodes now, a couple episodes maybe tomorrow. You know, I was just going to slowly get through it. I watched all 7 episodes. Other than barring maybe getting something to drink or running to the restroom or something, I watched all 7 episodes. Because every time I finished an episode, I had to watch another episode. And it's not like I was watching it for the first time, so the mystery of what happens next was there. No, I've seen Inferno, I don't even know how many times. Inferno is one of the 2 Doctor Who stories I have earliest memories of. It's part of my childhood. I've always loved this story. It just has so many fascinating things going on that are executed perfectly. That I still just wanted to watch the next episode. One thing I like having, not Trevor Baxter, but the other one. The actor who plays JLBWHO and also plays, of course, the Unicorn and the Wasp. I love having him back as Sir Keith. I like when he shows up in Doctor Who. And plus, I like Sir Keith as a character because he's a good guy. He's trying to do the right thing. I like Sir Keith. The guy who plays Stallman is phenomenal. He is perfect as Stallman. He gets across that arrogance, entitlement. You know, this is my life work. I'm not going to wait another second. He is just so good in that role. I have to give him a proper shout out. He's great. I love the 3rd Doctor's acting. This could be my favorite portrayal John Pertwee does of the 3rd Doctor. He's just so in it. You know, from when he's being interrogated, he's talking about this, try to slip me sideways. You know, where he's just wore out, to one of the best cliffhangers in all of Doctor Who. Do you hear that? That's the sound of this planet screaming out its rage. You know, I love that cliffhanger. And just the way John does that dialogue. This planet just screaming out its rage. I love that. It's so good. I love Liz. I love everybody pretty much getting to play dual roles. And you get the impression, while this is a very serious story, you get the impression they were having fun with it. Like, the Brigadier as the brigade leader, I'm going to admit he does ham it up a bit. I mean, he still comes across as threatening and dangerous, and he'll kill you in a second. But I just get the impression Nicholas Courtney was having so much fun with it. And I know Carolyn John's been on record for saying that she really loved playing the alternate universe Liz, because she just felt like there was more meat to that character. And I really like the alternate universe Liz. She's great. I mean, she is very that type of government, which obviously is kind of modeled on what if the Germans were in World War II or something similar. But she also listens to reason when you actually show her, look, this is happening. Here's the proof. You need to listen to me. She'll actually listen, which I like. Benton is interesting because Benton is like, he's like the regular world Benton if he wasn't a nice guy. It's like, take our Benton, take away the nice, and you have otherworld Benton. He's just, instead of being nice, he's not nice. He's stoic and, you know, very much a soldier. And so it's interesting to watch him get turned into, the Primoids? I forget right off. The werewolves. I like the design of the werewolves. They look good. The Primoids, I think is what it is. The only issue, like literally the only nitpick I can really come up with for the most part is that the teeth on the Primoids looks fake. I mean, I look at it and it does look like, you know, something they put in like Halloween vampire teeth. Other than that, I love the costume design. I love the fact it's heat that triggers it, heat that accelerates it. I like the location work. I say that a lot, but I do like the location work a lot. I love the set design, like for Stallman's lab and stuff. The guy playing the engineer that works there keeps trying to tell Stallman, you need to stop. I like him too. Stevenson? I forget his name. I like him too. He's really, really, really good. The actor playing him does a really good job in that. And I've had several people tell me I look like him, which is really crazy to me because I think in my mind's eye, I still picture myself the way I looked. Well, for anywhere between 18 and like 35. Because like when I was 33, I looked like I was 23. It wasn't until I hit like 38, 39, 40, where age just really started catching up to me. That and I need to exercise more. I miss my 18-year-old metabolism. But I've had a couple people tell me I look like him. I don't know how to take that. And I'm sure they didn't mean anything by it other than you look like him. But yeah, it never drags. It has all of these things it's balancing. You have the drilling going on, which, you know, there's a little message there too. You know, don't over drill. You have the werewolf stuff going on. And then you also have the parallel Earth, the parallel universe stuff going on. The first time the Doctor actually went to a parallel universe, I believe. I know he's went to, like in Mind Robber, when he was in a different plane. I think it's the first time he's in like an actual parallel universe. And it juggles all of these things perfectly, which is something most, you know, very seldom seen in Doctors. And the only time a 7-parter has ever done it, I think. I just love this story so much. It's just, the only thing that could make it better is if the original Masters survived. I really wish at least one, but preferably all of the original Masters survived. I always said if I could recover, like, some of the, I did a video, like, what if you could recover some of the original Masters for Pertwee stories that didn't have original Masters? And I'm like, all of mine are going toward Inferno. All of mine are going toward Inferno. I just love that story so much. I'm curious to see what it'll look like on Blu-ray. I don't have the special edition. I have the original release. I know the special edition, they did touch it up even more like they did for Claws of Axon. I haven't seen that. It's on my wish list. I have the original release, which still is fine. I'm good with the original release. I enjoy, I mean, the restoration for it is watchable easily. But I would like to see the special edition eventually. I'm sure when the Blu-ray set eventually makes it out, they'll have touched up. I don't know if they'll do a fresh restoration on it or just remap, you know, take the DVD special edition master and tweak it from there, which is what I expect they'll do since they have a lot more work to do with Silurians and Ambassadors of Death. I suspect they'll take the special edition master and just improve it where they can. So, I talked a lot about Inferno. I really like Inferno. So, I want to know what you think. What are your favorite Pertwee stories? How would you rank them? And what do you think of my ranking? Comment down below and let me know. Other things to do. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button and the bell for notifications so you never miss out on another video. I also have a Patreon if you like what I do and would like to support what I do. There's a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, Finn Perkins, and Unknown289, who did join my top tier recently. I appreciate their support and the support of all of my patrons. Thank you much. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review. And a link to my Amazon wish list is down there as well. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.